Today we're gonna talk about tariff war and the return of British East India Company in new form. As you know, the British Empire really took root and became powerful, with British East India Company slowly taking over India and exploiting its resources and imposing tax laws that benefit English and British industries at the expense of Indian industries. So, as the British Empire through British East India Company became stronger and more powerful, it started taking over other parts of the world and imposing its laws, imposing its demands on other parts of the world too. One area that the British went to war to impose their wills on the people of that area was China. As you know, China in that time was the number one exporter to the world, as exactly it is now. And China has a lot of things that could sell to the world, but it actually didn't need that much from the rest of the world, because more or less China was self-sustained and still is self-sustained. So, but Europe, Western European countries and many European countries wanted Chinese products like silk, like tea. So China sold those products to Britain, and Britain give them silver as a means of exchange. This silver was slowly accumulated by China because China had persistent trade surplus, and the British Empire and some other European empires, Western European empires, they had keep trading deficit, and they just give silver to trade with China. But at some point Britain realized didn't want to give China more silver, because China almost accumulated most of world silver, and they realized they could give China opium instead of silver. When they told the Chinese official in that time, Qing dynasty, that instead of silver you need to receive opium from us, the Chinese official were very puzzled from this request, because they knew that this substance would really hurt the people and their economy and is morally wrong. But the British, they wanted more and more exploitation. So when they realized that the Qing dynasty official would not bow to their request, they start a first opium war and impose certain treaties on China, and again second opium war. So China went from an industrial powerhouse that has a large economy. Because of these two wars and other issues externally and some internally, China really went to 100 years of humiliation, and China really went to chaos for 150 years because of these actions of Western country. So in this 150 years, the Western countries were able to really benefit from downfall of these Asian countries, and they could build up their industries, and they could have advantage in technology. But after all this year, China is back to its position that once it was. I mean, China again have persistent trade surplus, as it had does before the opium. It did before the Opium War. China had trade surplus. In that time, the European country paid with silver. Now, the Western country give with euros or dollars. So it's the same scenario. But why tariff war is the return of that? Because as the British didn't want to give Chinese silver, the American, they don't want to give China dollar. So instead, they want to not give them, or overall give them some other thing, or impose certain sanctions, or impose certain restrictions in order to hamper the rate of innovation of China. So as you can see, we really coming back to the point that we went almost 200 years ago, and as you can see, the tension in global stage is heightened as it was heightened prior to the Opium War. But this time many things are different, because we enter a new age. We enter a new age that really those immoral actions would not lead to better outcome, because the spiritual concept has changed. We really live in a world that people want to live with each other with harmony around the world. And if it's left to the people of the world, people really have a little issue with each other in terms of dealing with each other. But as we know, these certain people that wants to exploit certain division among people create such chaos among people. But this new spiritual reality that once was promoted by a Persian nobleman in 19th century, exactly around the time that the British tried to impose their treaty on China, it was the time that that Persian nobleman that portray himself or introduce himself as a prophet for new age, Baha'u'llah, he told us about how this clash of culture would happen again in future as it was happening in his time. He said the East and West really need to come together, because we cannot have zero-sum mindset anymore. We cannot deindustrialize India, or we cannot deindustrialize China at the expenses of development in Europe. So we need to get out of zero-sum mindset. What Baha'u'llah promoted to us in the same time in 19th century is, instead of meaningless competition that is really leads to zero-sum mindset, East and West needs to cooperate with each other. Meaning East and West needs to know their strengths and weaknesses and try to help each other's weaknesses and benefit from each other's strengths. The exact opposite happening now. What's happening now is really countries trying to exploit other countries' weakness and stop other countries' strength. This is really the issue of our time. And that Persian nobleman Baha'u'llah had a solution for the world: the unity of mankind. The unity of mankind means we really need to look at each other's first as a human. Then we could add other layers of identity, and other layers of identity is something we realize it could be valuable to us, but at the end what bound us together is our humanity. I really would like to hear your ideas about this subject. Please write in the comment section and like the video if you had interest in this video. Thank you so much. Bye.